Hello, welcome back to another video. In this video, we are going to be taking a look at A-Level English Language Paper 1, Variant 1-1, May-June 2020. The way that this paper is laid out is we have to answer 2 questions in total. Question 1 has to be answered, and then you can choose between question 2 or 3 to answer. Just one of these 2. Okay? And additional instructions are given right below to follow the instructions, etc. And of course, the reminder for good English to be used when you're answering. Total marks for this paper is 50. The number of marks for each question or part question is shown in brackets. Let's start with question 1. So this is the question that you absolutely have to answer. Question 1 says the following. The following text is taken from a speech by Barack Obama, who was President of the United States from 2009 to 2017. Obama delivered the speech at the White House in January 2017. It was the final weekly address of his presidency. A. Comment on the language and style of the text. And B. Imagine you attended the speech as part of a school trip. You have been asked to write an article for your school magazine, giving an account of the event for your fellow students. Basing your writing closely on the material of the original passage and using 120 to 150 of your own words, write a section of your article. Okay? And what I just did there is I like to always read the questions before I move on, read the text and whatnot, just to make sure that while I'm reading the text, I can keep the questions in the back of my head and get ready for those questions. It saves time. And here I underlined in red language and in blue style. So every time that I stumble upon something within the text that makes me think of style, that could be useful in terms of style, I'll underline it in blue. And same thing for language. If I notice something about language, I will also highlight it in red. But of course, we will start with A, right? And since we will start with A, we have to make sure that you know what you're looking for when you're trying to comment on language as well as style. So here, you've probably seen something similar in the first video that I have published for paper 1, A-Level. What is the difference between language and style in a text? Okay, language, we're looking at the type of words, grammar, sentence structure. So when we're looking at language, we're looking at very technical. Language is very explicit, it's black and white. You can point out specific things about language. Style is a little more, I would say, abstract. It's not as straightforward as language. Style is more so about the tone and the vibe that the writer gives you. So how does the writer use their words? How does the writer communicate? Okay, so language is nested within style. So for style to exist, you need language, right? Which makes sense. And as for explicit examples here, examples of language that you can keep in your head while you're reading a text is the text formal? Is it informal, the language, right? Is it very formal and informal? Is the text written in first person or in second person? We also have sentences. Are they long? Are they short? Are they medium length? And you have figures of speech, personification, puns, paradoxes, okay? And here over on this side for style, we have rhetorics. And by rhetorics, I mean pathos, ethos, logos. So the persuasion techniques, if you can recognize them within the text, that's great. We have the tone. We also have flashbacks, flash forwards. So in what tense is the writer speaking? Are they in the past? Are they referring to the past a lot? Are they referring to the future or the present moment? Okay, so you can think about that while I go ahead and I read the text. So these are the words of Barack Obama. Let's begin. This week, I traveled to Chicago to deliver my final farewell address to the nation, following in the tradition of presidents before me. It was an opportunity to say thank you. Whether we've seen eye to eye or rarely agreed at all, my conversations with you, the American people, in living rooms and schools, at farms and on factory floors, at dinners and on distant military outposts, are what have kept me honest, kept me inspired, and kept me going. Every day I learned from you. You made me a better president, and you made me a better man. Over the course of these 8 years, I have seen the goodness, the resilience, and the hope of the American people. I've seen neighbors looking out for each other as we rescued our economy from the worst crisis of our lifetimes. I've hugged cancer survivors who finally know the security of affordable health care. I've seen communities like Joplin rebuild from disaster, and cities like Boston show the world that no terrorist will ever break the American spirit. I've seen the hopeful faces of young graduates and our newest military officers. I've mourned with grieving families searching for answers and found grace in a Charleston church. I've seen our scientists help a paralyzed man regain his sense of touch, and our wounded warriors walk again. I've seen our doctors and volunteers rebuild after earthquakes and stop pandemics in their tracks. I've learned from students who are building robots and curing diseases and who will change the world in ways that we can't even imagine. I've seen the youngest of children remind us of our obligations to care for our refugees, to work in peace, and above all, to look out for each other. That's what's possible when we come together in the hard, slow, sometimes frustrating, but always vital work of self-government. But we can't take our democracy for granted. All of us, regardless of party, should throw ourselves into the work of citizenship. Not just when there's an election, not just when our own narrow interest is at stake, but over the full span of a lifetime. If you're tired of arguing with strangers on the internet, try to talk with one in real life. If something needs fixing, lace up your shoes and do some organizing. If you're disappointed by your elected officials, then grab a clipboard, get some signatures, and run for office yourself. Our success depends on our participation, regardless of which way the pendulum of power swings. It falls on each of us to be guardians of our democracy, to embrace the joyous task we've been given to continually try to improve the great nation of ours. This great nation of ours, because for all our outward differences, we all share the same proud title, citizen. It has been the honor of my life to serve you as president. 8 years later, I am even more optimistic about our country's promise, and I look forward to working along your side as a citizen for all my days that remain. Thanks, everybody. God bless you, and God bless the United States of America. Okay? So, now, here, when I read this on my own, as you can see, I've underlined things in red as well as in blue. Red is language, blue is style. So let's go through these things that I've underlined here one by one, and I'll explain to you what I did and what my thoughts are. Okay. Here, first thing that I've highlighted regarding to style. Every day I learned from you. You made me a better president, and you made me a better man. Okay, so here from the start, right at the beginning of the speech, we see that this is very personal. Okay, because Barack Obama there is addressing probably a very large crowd, but he says you. Instead of saying you all or all of you, he says you. So here, just from the fact that he uses you a lot, and that's everywhere in the text. Everywhere. If you just look at other paragraphs, you'll find the word you a lot. If we look down here, he says, if you're tired, he's addressing you specifically. So it's very personal. And I did not underline this, but I could have underlined this here. Just 2 seconds. I feel like I could have underlined, yes. It was an opportunity to say thank you. Here we have again you, whether we've seen eye to eye or rarely agreed at all. So here's very important for style and the level of how personal this is, because Barack Obama says, I want to thank you, even if we did not see eye to eye. So even the people who probably didn't vote for him or who don't really like him, he still thanks them, because he goes on, my conversations with you, again, the American people. And here the fact that he says you so many times, and then right after he says you, he says the American people. And down below here as well, because for all our outward differences, here he speaks about differences again. Differences, we all share the same proud title, citizen. And citizen of where? America. Okay, so first paragraph, and also in the 5th paragraph here, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He talks about differences again. So whether you agree with me and you like me or not, you and I are the same. We are American. So he also gives this feeling within his speech of unison. We're all the same, we're all American. Very personal, the tone. Moving on, in red here, I have seen, I've seen, I've seen, I've seen, I've seen, I've seen, I've seen. So there we have figure of speech, repetition. He repeats that a lot. I've seen, I've seen, I've seen, I've seen, I've seen, I've seen, I've seen. Now it sounds a little bit weird to me. I've seen. I've said it so many times. Okay. He repeats that a lot. So you can mention that as a comment for language. He repeats I've seen a lot. And it gives you the sense of he's been doing stuff. You know, this is his final speech. It's the end of his presidency. So he's kind of giving a summary of what he has been doing over the course of 8 years. Like he says right here, over the course of 8 years, I've seen, I've seen, I've seen, I've seen. So he was present, right? Next thing that I highlighted in red is about Boston. So let's read the sentence. I've seen communities like Joplin rebuild, Joplin or Joplin, I'm not sure, rebuild from disaster, and cities like Boston show the world that no terrorist will ever break the American spirit. So here, all right, I've seen, so this is repetition for figures of speech. And I've seen cities like Boston show the world that no terrorist will ever break the American spirit. So here we have personification. Because he is attributing human-like qualities to the city of Boston and also the American spirit, something that can break. So we have personification there. Another thing that I've highlighted down below is here. He repeats this sentence a lot. So you can use this example here in blue. It could technically be underlined in red as well, so red or blue, because he repeats if you're tired, if something needs fixing, if you're disappointed. So they all start with this very negative. There's a pattern there, essentially. Negative, and then comes up with a positive right after. So I wouldn't be... Actually, I don't think it would be repetition because it's not exactly the same, but there's some sort of pattern. If you know which figure of speech could apply to this, whatever's going on right here, please leave a comment down below for other people to know. But I've highlighted this in blue because he radiates hope. And it's demonstrated in this part here in this section when he says, if you're tired of arguing with strangers on the internet, try to talk with one in real life. If something needs fixing, lace up your shoes and do some organizing. If you're disappointed by your elected officials, then grab a clipboard, get some signatures, and run for office yourself. Okay, so here you clearly see that he is motivating people. There's that motivation in his tone, and there's that don't find a solution. He's urging people to find solutions for whatever problem that they may have by listing different potential issues that someone may face. There's also some urgency in his tone, because here I could have highlighted this in blue as well, could have underlined this in blue. He says, our success depends on our participation. So this follows the idea here, which is he's telling the audience that They are responsible. If there's a problem, you are responsible for fixing it. And our success, so the nation's success, depends on our participation, regardless of which way the pendulum of power swings. So this means here, regardless of whatever your political beliefs are, the nation depends on you. It falls on each of us. Okay? Falls on each of us. So through his tone and through his words, he's really giving out the message of you have responsibility, you have a role to play in this nation, and you need to do that. So very, very personal and very direct. And last thing that I've underlined regarding style is when Obama says, and I look forward to working along your side as a citizen. So it also reinforces the idea that the speech is very personal, because you have a president that's speaking to you and saying that he would be working along your side. So he's right next to you. So he's your equal. You guys are like this, equals, right? So it really gives a sense of you feel close to him. You feel like he's very relatable, because he rises you up to his level. So those are the little tips and things that I have noticed about language and style. There are much, much more. Feel free to comment down below if you want to point out anything that I missed. But there is definitely much more that you could point out. Just have to look in the text. Now let's take a look at part B. Part B is asking to write an article for your school magazine giving an account of the event. Okay, so essentially a summary of what happened. So for the article, you have the title, the abstract, the opening paragraph, the body, the closing paragraph. And the title of the article has to be extremely attractive, extremely interesting for people to actually read it. So a good idea here for a title, I would say, would be Yes, He Did. Because the speech is about Obama addressing his final weekly, so it was his final weekly address of his presidency, okay? So this is the last thing that he's saying to the public while he's president. So Obama started his presidency. Everybody knew Obama for the slogan, yes, we can, yes, we can. I'm pretty sure you've probably heard it before, but he says that a lot, yes, we can, during the time that he was running for president. So I think a cool article would be a cool article title would be Yes, He Did. I think that would be pretty cool. You're kind of playing on the words there. At the beginning he said yes we can, and now at the end you're saying yes he did. And it kind of goes with the whole I've seen, and he tells you what he saw and what he did. So yes he did. Okay. And the abstract, you would just have to, which is similar to the opening paragraph, you have to give some sort of general summary. So you would mention that the school had organized a trip and that you were a part of the students that went, and Obama gave a very moving and powerful, motivating, almost motivational like speech regarding the end of his presidency and his hope for America's future. And the body Of course, you're going to summarize the event, so summarize the text. And closing paragraph, I believe that closing paragraph a good way to end this, since you're writing for your school, right? I think that there should be emphasis on this part here. So what Obama said regarding, if you're tired of arguing with strangers on the internet, try to talk to one in real life. So the closing paragraph should be the overall powerful message of his text, which is everyone has the responsibility to make things better and find solutions, especially for the nation. So essentially be the change, right? Be the change that you want to see in the world. So I think that would be a cool extract of the text to use for your closing paragraph, is to mention what he said in line 27 to 30. Okay. So there you have it. That's what I have for you when it comes to question 1. A bit of tips, tricks, and brainstorming. Let's move on to 2. Question number 2. The following text is taken from professional cyclist Michael Berry's autobiography. In the text, he reflects on the implications of his decision to confess to having cheated in the sport. Comment on the language and style of the text. And then for B, imagine you are Michael Berry's father and you decide to write a letter to him about his decision to confess. Basing your writing closely on the material of the original passage and using 120 to 150 of your own words, write a section of the letter. So first thing is to comment on language and style. I'm going to use the same technique with the red and the blue. And here, the second part of the question is asking for you to write a section of the letter that Michael Berry's father would have sent to him about his decision to confess. Okay, so key thing here is just a section of the letter. It's a tiny detail, but when I was reading the question at first, it didn't really sink in that it's just a section, not the entire letter, just a section. Okay, so let's start with reading the text and seeing how you can comment on language and style. The phone rang at the arranged time. The caller ID matched the number on the email. This was the call I had anticipated for 9 years. One I knew would forever change my life. It rang twice. I answered as I turned down the radio. My wife drove and I sat in the passenger seat of the minivan with our children in the back. Only a few hours earlier, I had announced my retirement from professional cycling. For 2 years, I had considered whether or not I should stop, but with time, the decision became easier. Weeks on end away from my family, the crashes, the injuries, and the resulting anxiety had become too much. But I kept going as I wanted to be sure I was making the right decision, and I feared giving up a passion and a dream I had pursued since I was a small boy. I loved being on my bike, but the demands of the job had eroded my will and crushed my body. Soon after publicly announcing this would be my last season and the coming races that weekend in Quebec City and Montreal, my final races in Canada, I started receiving emails of congratulations for a long career racing at the highest level. Then there had been that email requesting a phone conversation. On the phone, knowing nothing in my life would ever be the same, I looked out the window at the valley that had been a part of me since I was a boy, and I felt oddly calm. My life was about to take a direction that I had fought to avoid, yet I knew I would inevitably face it. I'm not sure we can ever escape our lies, errors, and sins. Even if they don't become public, they will haunt us and devour us from within. There was emptiness in my stomach and nervousness in my voice as I answered the call, but these symptoms had not been triggered by fear of the consequences. I was willing to accept the consequences. I was concerned about the complexities that I didn't yet know how to handle. I had no idea how it would all unfold, but I had faith that good could come, as it always does, regardless of how challenging the path. I'd spent my life playing, training, and racing on a bicycle. I was fortunate to have had the opportunity to pursue a childhood passion. I chased my dreams. I loved being on a bike, and I made a living doing it. Cycling took me all over the world. I traveled year-round, often to exotic places. I had my parents' unwavering support when I was a boy, and later when I rode for the leading professional teams in the world. Through my career, I earned a reputation as a trusted domestic support rider, and I helped many top cyclists as they raced to victory in the most important professional competitions of the season. A love of writing, the liberty of going distances. Oops, sorry, this is bothering me so much when it's crooked. There we go. Again, a love of writing, the liberty of going distances at speed, alone or with friends, pushed me to get back on my bike when perhaps I should have given up. I'd felt the same emotion on the bike today as I'd felt as a boy when I first learned to ride. That emotion carried me to places I would never have imagined, drove me to do things that were wrong, crushed me, matured me, challenged me every day, cemented relationships, and informed my life's pursuits. I wondered how I would tell my boys, and how they would deal with knowing that their father had cheated. The people closest to me would be the hardest to tell. I wondered how they would react and if they would ever forgive me. I hoped that through my testimony and through the investigation, these kids would never face the same realities as I had, or have to make the same decisions as I did if they wanted to become professional cyclists. I still loved to ride. Racing had worn me out, but cycling had kept me going. It still does. Okay, let's take a look at these notes. Very emotional text. Okay, so very emotional. You can see that this isn't probably, it's not a happy text, right? Just based on the content, what he's writing about. First thing that I have highlighted is this was the call I had anticipated for 9 years. This is an exaggeration. So figure of speech. Where's my red? Figure of speech. We have hyperbole. Exaggerating, okay? The call that you anticipated for 9 years, that's a very long time. Let's start with actually just language right now. I won't go in order. I'll actually just talk about language first. And so next red underlining is here. I'm not sure we can ever escape our lies, errors, and sins. They will haunt us and devour us from within. There was emptiness in my stomach, nervousness in my voice. Okay? So here we have personification. Personification. Because escape our lies, so as if lies, errors, and sins. So escaping is a human, it's an action that's done by human, chasing, right? So as if your lies, your errors, and sins can chase after you or find you. So that's giving a human-like quality to something that's not human, right? And they will haunt us, again, devour us, human things that people do. Emptiness in my stomach, nervousness in my voice. All personifications. Here we have, again, personification. I chased my dreams. So dreams cannot run. They're not humans. There's a lot of personifications. Oops. Personification. I think there may be more personifications in this text, but these are the ones that I've focused on. Oh, more personifications. That emotion carried me to places. So an emotion carries you, drove me, crushed me, matured me, challenged me. So again, you can comment on that language. He uses a lot of personification. A lot. Okay. So that's a solid comment in regards of language. You have a hyperbole and then a lot of personifications. And other things that you can say regarding language is he is writing in first person point of view. Okay, by the way, this also could be said for question 1, right? Obama was speaking in first person as well as second person, but question 1 was a little bit different. But anyway, let's focus on this because we moved on already. But first person point of view for this one. And the sentences, you can also comment that they're medium to long sentences. So let's see if I can just quickly find a long sentence. Yep, here by just eyeballing it, this sentence is pretty long. It's 2 lines. So his sentences are pretty long and or medium sized. This one again here is super long. It's literally, this whole paragraph is, no, sorry, it's 2 sentences. So this sentence is three lines. Okay. So that's comment regarding language. And now regarding style, let's think about tones. We see that he uses a little bit of flashback. Paragraph 20, sorry, not paragraph 20, paragraph 1, 2, 3, 4. On the phone, knowing nothing in my life would ever be the same, I looked out the window at the valley that had been a part of me since I was a boy. So here, based on the tone, you can see that it's a little flashback here. He sees a valley that reminds him of his childhood. So it gives you the feeling of what would he look like as a kid, right? And you can imagine that part of his life. If we take a look here, weeks on end away from my family, the crashes, the injuries, and the resulting anxiety had become too much. In this paragraph here, Michael Berry is talking about how he announced his retirement, and it took him 2 years to consider whether or not he wanted to retire, right? And he says that weeks on end away from my family, the crashes, the injuries, and the resulting anxiety had become too much. So there you somewhat feel kind of sad for him, right? So the tone there and what he's doing there is there's a little bit of pathos, because he's playing on those emotions. You're like, oh, like, you know, I understand you being away from your family and the injuries, and it must have been hard for him. So you sympathize, right? So here it triggers sympathy from the reader. Okay? And don't forget that here at the beginning, yes, this overflows onto the next point, but here at the beginning, Barry is literally telling the reader that he received the call that he anticipated. And it's funny that he uses the word anticipated there, because he builds up anticipation. There's suspense in the text, because he says that the phone rang twice. He knew that it was a call that he anticipated for a long time, and it would forever change his life. But he doesn't tell us what the call is, right? And here he keeps on going. I had injuries, crashes, etc. And you're wondering, oh, what happened? Why did he retire? There's questions that are coming inside your mind as you're reading. And this whole paragraph here gives you really a nice feel of that anticipation that he keeps building up for you, right? By this time here, we're the 4th paragraph from the beginning. So he's still building the anticipation. When he says it's very dramatic as well, right? There's a drama see, the personification here plays, and it helps build that dramatic style that he has, right? Because he's like, I'm not sure we can ever escape our lies, errors, and sins. Even if they don't become public, they will haunt us and devour us. So the whole time you're like, whoa, it's super dramatic. What's going on? And the anticipation, right? You're still asking yourself questions. You can definitely mention that his style is building anticipation for the reader. Next thing that I would like to point out regarding his style is you have here again the sympathy. So this reinforces the idea of sympathy, because he's like, I wonder how I would tell my boys and how they would deal with knowing that their dad had cheated. So also notice that this is the first time that he mentions that he cheated in the text. And this is basically essentially the the last paragraph, you could say, because this is technically the last paragraph, but it's just one sentence. But he waits until the end, after building all that into anticipation and suspense, that what happened is that he cheated. Okay? And again, with the pathos and the emotions, he's asking for the sympathy. Because you can imagine if you did something bad, you don't really care, or you wouldn't really care maybe what strangers would think about you, but your own kid, that's pretty bad, right? Imagine how your parents would feel if you looked at them in like a, wow, you really messed up way. That's pretty embarrassing as a parent. Okay? And here again with the dramatic tone, the last thing he says is, racing had worn me out, but cycling had kept me going. It still does. So in the end there, despite everything, the very short dramatic sentence, it still does. So despite everything that happened, he still likes to cycle. And here you have the tones and pathos I mentioned, right? When it comes to sympathy. But the tone, you have remorseful, how would I tell my boys? Nostalgic tone is here when he says, I looked at the valley from the window and I was thinking of when I was a boy. And here as well, when he talks about how it felt like to ride, he says, yes, as a boy again, flashback, when I first learned to ride, it carried me to places, it drove me to do things that were wrong. Okay, no, this is not very nostalgic. Challenged me every day. There's another part where he talks about writing as a boy, I think. Yes, here. Pursuing a childhood passion. I love being on a bike and I made a living doing it. It took me all over the world. I traveled year round, even to exotic places. So he feels that nostalgia, which is you reminisce on old past events and you kind of miss the feeling that it brought you. And the tone as well is serious. Okay, so this letter is this autobiography is very heavy. Okay. And you could even comment on the title here. Maybe it's a title of one of the chapters in his book or something. I don't know if it's a book for his autobiography. But Shadows on the Road. So just by reading the title there, you can tell that Shadows on the Road, it's not going to be a happy text. It's something pretty dark there, okay? So it's a little bit of a foreshadowing there. So yes, here language. See some foreshadowing. Okay. So that's what I have for language and style. Let's move on to part B, which is you would have to imagine that you're Michael Berry's father and that you're writing to him about the decision to confess. And you're just writing a section of the letter, right? So let's take a look at a few things that I've put together for you. Okay, so Here, since it's a section, you have to choose, or the section that you're going to write, is it going to be the beginning, the middle, or the end of the letter, right? Because it's just 120 to 150 words. If you choose the beginning, I would advise that you start with dear son or son. I think dear son gives me more of a sweet, soft tone, but just saying son, it's a little more harsh. And, starting your letter with son, it's a little more serious. Okay, this one is softer. Middle, if you start in the middle, I think you should make it clear by starting your answer with secondly, or I also want to let you know, just to make it very clear, right? That you're starting in the middle. If you choose the end, then I would start my answer with in the end, or we all make mistakes. Something that gives the marker the clear understanding that the section that you chose to write was the end. Okay, now let's look at the content. Oh, and I have a note here just to remind you that you need to make it very clear to the marker that you're choosing the beginning, the middle, or the end section. Okay, so very, very clear. Content of the letter. The first thing that you can do is make the letter that the father is sending his son an angry letter. So is the father disowning his son? I can't believe you cheated. Your mother and I did not raise you this way. I don't want anything to do with you. Don't want to speak with you ever again. So here again, doesn't want to see the son. Maybe is writing him off his will, right? Here, very dramatic, but right? So if I die, you get 0 money, no inheritance. I don't want anything to do with you, basically. Second is to go the opposite, which is the father is understanding. Okay, he's understanding, he's loving, the sympathy is there. The father reminds the son that mistakes can happen and forgiveness is okay, and that the son should also forgive himself. So if you want to make that letter have that sort of tone, understanding and sympathy, that's a good idea as well. And next thing is disbelief. I think this one is a little more original. I don't think a lot of people would go this way. And disbelief and denial is in the sense that the father thinks that the son is being framed, or he's being coerced into saying all these things, right? So in your letter, you would say some stuff like, oh, why are you saying this? Who is doing this? You can talk to me, tell me the truth. This is not you. So he's very much in denial. I don't believe this. I know this is a plot against you. Your manager might be forcing you to do this, and they maybe threatened your kids, and call me, we can talk about this, fix this together. This is pretty interesting. I think I would personally go this way, because I think a lot of students would choose anger or sympathy, but this is a little bit on the left field. Okay, if you have any other ideas, of course, leave a comment down below so that you can help other people as well, right? Okay, that was question 2. The tips and tricks and the brainstorming for question 2. Now let's take a look at question 3. The following text is taken from a promotional feature on the website of a company that specializes in unusual holidays in Africa. Comment on the language and style of the text. Imagine you are a writer for another holiday company that also specializes in unusual holidays. You have been asked to write a promotional feature for their website about the holidays they offer. Basing your writing closely, you know this. I won't repeat it. Okay, let's begin. Here at Malatini, we tailor-make each person's holiday to their own unique requirements. Below, here are a few of the holidays that we have suggested for clients who wished to experience something a little more unusual. Yoga and Pilates safaris. What better place is there for people to recognize their place within the universe and to reconnect with nature than the African wilderness? The combination of an exciting safari adventure with the wellness gained through yoga and meditation offers an incredible holistic experience that is not only good for the soul, but also a wonderful opportunity to reconnect with yourself and others. A canoe safari down the Selinda Spillway in Botswana. Imagine you are one of the early pioneers of this amazing area when the days were spent exploring the water channels by canoe and the nights were spent camping on the banks of the river. This trip is 4 days long, consisting of 2 full days and 2 half days of easy paddling. You get the opportunity to stop where and when you want and explore the area on foot. You can expect to encounter all manner of wildlife on this trip, with the area particularly well known for its bird life, along with elephant, buffalo, sable, roan, and wild dog. Quirimba's archipelago, those safaris. I really feel like I butchered this, okay? Excuse me for the pronunciation if it's wrong. For those wanting a bit more out of their beach holiday than just a book and a sun lounger, why not take a unique safari by Doe between islands in the pristine Quirimba's archipelago off Mozambique's north coast. You will journey the islands by Doe, stop to snorkel on remote reefs, meet the local fishermen to haggle for your dinner, and explore the uninhabited islands for bird life and giant coconut crabs. Spend your evenings cooking fresh fish on an open fire under the stars, after which you climb into a comfortable bed in a tent pitched on the sandy beach. On Ibo Island, you will stay in an old Portuguese mansion, now a beautiful lodge, and wander the streets surrounded by the vibe of coastal culture. Vet safaris offer people the chance to get involved in conversation, efforts, and go on a life-altering adventure of a lifetime. Join African vets on wildlife immobilization procedures or a species-specific interactive safari that takes you behind the scenes, with elements engaging to both the general public and those already involved in the veterinary practice, your safari can be tailor-made to suit your needs. These safaris provide the irresistible opportunity to gain hands-on experience and up-close and personal encounters with some of Africa's most famous and ferocious wildlife. A mountain biking safari in Botswana's Masatu Game Reserve. The Cycle Masatu Wilderness Trail is a unique 4-day mountain biking getaway in Masatu Game Reserve, a big game area within the Northern Tule Game Reserve of Botswana. Just fixing the alignment there. There we go. It provides an extraordinary opportunity to ride at leisure along ancient elephant migration paths, cycle through vast herds of wildlife, and to sleep under starlight African skies. I'm just going to pause here and noticed a few things here that I'll talk about soon. Okay, each group will have their distance, pace, and routes tailored, but the aim is to ride 4 or 5 hours per day, covering 30 to 40 kilometers. Generally, the pace is easygoing with regular game sightings and scenic picnic stops. Okay. I'm just realizing things here as I'm reading this text for you. Last section here. Namaqualand and Cedarburg Flower Tours. The spring flowers of South Africa's Cape West Coast, Cedarburg and Namaqualand, have a worldwide reputation. After the winter rains of May to July-August, the normally dry landscape becomes a carpet of wild flowers with vibrant bands of Gaussblom and veggies, as well as Nemesias, Lachanelius, these words, Babiana, Ixias, okay? Forgive me for this here, I just cannot. And certain species found somewhere else in the world. The area is best visited in early August and late September. You can self-drive, join an escorted specialist flower tour, or take a trip from Cape Town. Okay. Very long and detailed advertisement there, promotion. So let's go in and begin with style. Style. Here, I noticed throughout the text that the writer will use a lot of own unique requirements, right? So your own unique requirements, and here, let's see if I can find it again. Yes, there you go. You get the opportunity to stop where and when you want. Own unique requirements, stop where and when you want. Let's see if I can find it in this paragraph. I can't find it here. endosome. Why not take a unique? Okay, not here, but the point is you have own unique requirements, and then you have stop or end when you want. Here, this paragraph, your safari can be tailored, made to suit your needs. At leisure, tailored, okay? So here at Style, it's a promotion, and a promotion, they want to appeal to whoever is reading, right, at that given time. So it's very personalized, right? It's a very personal text because they want to grab whatever your needs. They want to meet your specific needs so that you can give them business. Next thing that I've noticed in regards of style, for clients who wish to experience something a little more than usual. Okay, so here, by saying this, they're essentially playing with your emotions in a way. They're using psychology here, because by saying for clients who wish to experience something a little more unusual, so if you don't buy into what they're telling you, then it means that you don't think outside the box, and that you're just a plain and boring person. It gives you the feeling of, oh, I'm someone who wants to explore and be unusual. I'm not like the average person, right? Usually people don't want to feel like they're the average person. So here I find this enticing. It taunts you. It's a little bit taunting here, okay? And here, a wonderful opportunity to reconnect with yourself and others, that they're using a little bit of pathos there, right? So they're playing with the emotions here again. So you can reconnect with yourself and others. So whether you want to go by yourself to kind of be in your bubble and really look deep inside yourself, or if there's someone, your significant other or family, and you need some bonding time because there's a lot of arguing going on, they're selling that, and they're playing on the emotional part of you. Okay, and yeah, so that's what I have for style here. For language, I'm going to point out a few things. Here we have a rhetorical question. What better place is there for people to recognize their place within the universe and to reconnect with nature than an African wilderness? So this is a rhetorical question. They don't expect you to answer it. It answers itself. Rhetorical question. Here we have imagery, figure of speech. There's a lot of imageries, by the way. And this here below we have rhetorical question. Again. Yes, imagery. And clearly it's imagery. They say, imagine you are one of the early pioneers and you're on a canoe, and if you close your eyes and someone reads the sentence out to you, you would imagine yourself in that position. So that's the imagery. Figure of speech. Here we have another rhetorical question. For those wanting a bit more out of their beach holiday than just a book and a sun lounger, why not take a unique safari? Baido between islands in the pristine Quirimbas archipelago off Mozambique's north coast. I'm going to look up how to pronounce this later. I really am really curious. Okay, but the point here is that you have another rhetorical question. So that's a comment you can make. 2 rhetorical questions. And here it provides an extraordinary opportunity to ride at your leisure along ancient elephant migration path, etc. Here again you have imagery. Oopsies. Imagery. Okay, there's a lot of imagery everywhere, and another thing that you can find a lot in this text adjectives. Okay, a lot of them, a lot of wild flowers, vibrant bands. If I had to highlight all the adjectives in here, I'd underline everything. Okay, so there's a lot of adjectives here. So I hope that this helps a little bit. Also, in regards to the language is formal. You can see that this is not a text that's written it is personal, but it's personal in a formal way. It's still very formal. It's very structured, right? You could also speak about the structure. There's a subheading text, subheading text, subheading text. Okay, you can that goes within the style. Okay, how it works, a structure, subheading text. Okay, and the sentences, if you want to comment on language, the sentences, some of them are long. I would say it's much more on the long and medium side. Not a lot of short sentences. Now let's take a look at part B. Imagine that you are a writer for another holiday company that also specializes in unusual holidays. You have been asked to write a promotional feature for their website about the holiday that they offer. Okay. All right. So here I have the requirements. Remember, 120 to 150 of your words, and your writing has to be based closely on the language and style of the text. Okay. So the ideas that I have is, for the unusual holidays, is spending the night in a unique traditional village of a country. Okay, so you can think of any country in the world, and maybe you've watched a documentary that talks about a specific tribe, and imagine writing for a holiday company that advertises spending a night with a tribe that's maybe almost extinct. Who knows? Be pretty cool. It's unusual, right? Just have to make sure that whatever you choose to write about is unusual. Another idea is spend the night in an underwater hotel. Okay, that would be pretty cool too. So you would need to write about the view, the water, are there sharks, what kind of fish? Okay, it'd be pretty cool because that's definitely unusual, spending the night underwater. Swimming with sharks. So maybe in this situation, this would just be an event of one day, right? Because there's not a whole entire holiday that just involves swimming with sharks. So this would be an event of one day, maybe at a resort that has that activity where you swim with sharks. Or maybe if you really want to spice this up, you could say you have dinner underwater with sharks around you somehow. Which leads me to the fourth idea, which is having dinner in the sky. They do that in like Dubai or something, where you're just in the sky and you have dinner. That's a cool idea too. Or very out there, spending a week in space. And no matter what you choose, remember that the thing that will earn you really good points, because you are meant to follow the language and the style of the text. So same style and language as this text. You'll have to use a lot of adjectives. So no matter what you choose, you need to know how to describe whatever situation, whatever unusual holiday you choose. All right, and there you have it. That was for question 3. The tips and tricks and the brainstorming. And we are pretty much done. I thank you for making it to the end of the video. Please like the video if this helps you in any way. If you have any suggestions or comments, leave them down below. I read all of them. I hope you have a great day, night, based on where you are located in the world. And I will see you in the next video.